How are you?
Good, good. Uh, Today we're going to talk about instant estimators and kind of talk through like the different approaches and ways we can be using them. So they've been very popular uh, as tools that people are buying, but a lot of the time people get them, they put it on their website or they put it on a few QR codes, and it just gets very, very little lift when they're just not there. People wonder, why are we not getting more scans? Why are we not getting more people to fill it out? And so we're going to talk about some of the ways that we can approach and think about instant estimators, because they are great tools. Just before I go, Tina, do y'all use like Roofle or Roofer or any of that for your instant estimator? Or Jenna? Sorry, I didn't see you join too.
We do have Roofle.
Do y'all get much from it?
I mean, we just renewed it, so we get something out of it.
Cool.
I think
Awesome.
Jenna would know more than that. I think she just ran a report for that this morning. So
Yeah, I was just looking into it because Brooke was kind of curious on like the return on it and if we're getting anything from it. Um, for the month of April, I think we had 22 leads in there. Some of them were duplicated, like customers coming back and using it multiple times. And then there were a couple names that I recognized just kind of as a quick skim through that have converted, whether it was from the Rufal or if they ended up probably calling in for an actual estimate. So we're getting a little bit. I think we're getting our money's worth out of it for sure. So
Yeah, I love it. So these tools, like that's the thing that I think people sometimes forget. And I'm not like talking about anyone specific here. Y'all are getting leads, y'all are doing good. A lot of people, so I'm speaking more of the general users, are putting those on their website, but they're a little nervous about them. And then when they decide to use them, they put them on their QR code or they make it one of like their main first calls to action. And all of a sudden they just don't get almost anything from it. And the main reason is because people have different intent when they are when you're trying to either get your estimate scheduled or have someone come inspection, and it's really difficult to like undo what their intent is. So an example is if you went to the grocery store because you needed to get steak, and that's what your you told your parents, your family you're going to do or whatever, and then someone was like, but do you want uh ribs instead? It kind of changes your whole mindset, and it's rare that someone's going to be able to get you to change your mind. Now you might be interested in ribs, but you already are kind of set on one path. And I think that's how a lot of people work. And what we want to make sure when we're looking at these tools and looking at how they work is we want to think through like what's the actual psychology of someone that is looking to have someone inspect their roof versus someone who's just wants the price. Because someone who just wants a price, like that's not a bad thing. We need to stop thinking that someone who's like interested in numbers and like that's their main priority is bad, because at the end of the day, like it's pretty normal. If someone's looking at someone needs a new roof, one of the first things they're going to ask is like one of the first questions they're going to have, one of the first things they're going to look up is how much is this going to cost? But that doesn't necessarily mean they're in buying mode. By the time they're in buying mode, they usually are, okay, let's get someone out here, like let's start taking this more seriously. So what we need to do is make sure that we're matching those types of buyers with our instant estimator, and also understanding like this is going to generally be a volume thing, but it's also a tool that we can use in a bunch of different ways. So one of the ways that I've seen instant estimators used well, that I think works pretty well, is if you just are running like broad Facebook ads. That's not necessarily like a sign or situation where you're going to just get like a bunch of high intent leads, but you are going to find people who are interested in more just like, okay, like, yeah, I probably like it. They're kind of going to be raising their hands like, yeah, I might be interested in this, or I am curious about how much my roof is going to cost, or I am probably going to be in the market soon. So these instant estimators are a lot of the time, it's people who are showing you that they're in an area or that their home might be in need of a roof. They might not be in immediate need to get the roof replaced, which is why I don't know if this is y'all's experience, but a lot of people's experience is they get a bunch of the partial fill outs. So people who don't, right when they get to the point where it's time to give all their information, they're like, ah, never mind. I don't want anyone calling me. And that's because they're mostly intrigued and interested in just like kind of looking around, browsing. What we want to do is make sure that we're catering to those people, but also that we have very strong and clear ways that we're going to approach those people about their project. So one of the first things that I like to look at is one, when we are getting a fill out, whether they answer or not, if you have a salesperson that is just getting started, or a salesperson that is not up to KPI, or just a hungry salesperson, every single person that fills out that form, they should probably just go knock on that door at some point, because that is a version of an opening, an invitation. So, hey, you filled out this instant estimator. I was just in the area. I just wanted to like introduce myself. If you need anything, let me know. And know that this is going to be like a long-term thing. But I also encourage you guys to have other strategies outside of that. So like sending mail to those people, putting them on an email list, doing something to nurture those types of buyers is going to be really important if you want your instant estimator to like have the highest lift. One of our clients that actually he's a coach as well. So John Delorier had a very good instant estimator strategy. He would like it would be on it was on all of his trucks, it was on his website, it was on all of his marketing material, and he used Proline, so he had like a bunch of different automations and stuff set up. And the moment someone filled out an instant estimator, he would, one, whether they actually fill out their name or not, but this is mostly like on the partial fills, he would, one, look the street up and on Google images and just basically look like, okay, or Google satellite, and he basically look, okay, is this person in an area that I want to be? Is this like, is the Google satellite view like look like a lot of these houses are still old and could potentially need a new roof? And where is this person like located in terms of his neighbor? So I know that sounds like a funny one, but he's like, if someone's like on a cul-de-sac, for instance, he's going all in on that person. Like that might be a different protocol, like a little bit more aggressive. Once he identified yes, he would manually put that person into a multiple postcard campaign through dope marketing. You could use SendGem, it doesn't have to be dope, but generally he would put them into a multiple drip campaign. Basically, each individual, each one would basically be very specific to the fact that they requested a form. He would then go send one of his guys to canvass that area and including that individual house. And then oftentimes he would even like run a little simple Facebook ad or a video or something into that area. So he would try to shorten the cycle of, okay, I'm curious what the price is, to, okay, I'm actually going to, like, I'm just going to hit this area hard. Now, a lot of the time, when we have one individual lead, it's difficult to justify spending all of that effort, especially if they haven't shown a ton of intent. They're just kind of like looking, they didn't even fill out their name, their info. You just got their address from the estimator. In that situation, we're not looking at that individual as one individual lead that we just want to hit. We're looking at that individual as someone who is kind of flagging our company down and giving us a signal that, okay, this area might be one that's worth looking at. So the first big lesson, I guess, that I want to like look at is with instant estimator leads, one of the big things that we can do when they're just coming in online or from wherever, one of the first things that we can do and look at is, are they in an area that we would like to work? That is branch one. If no, then reach out to them maybe, but like don't go hard. If they are, yes, in an area that we want to work, then that person should be, even if it was like a loose invitation, we need to look at that as an invitation into an area. The thing that I always like to remind everyone of is that it's very difficult to like figure out when a conversion and when someone officially is saying, yes, I want to enter into your sales process. Because like when they're online, because they might have looked at an ad, they might have clicked on something on Google, and we know that there's the people that just reach out and schedule an appointment. Like those are the obvious ones. But what about the other people? What about the people that have scanned a QR code? What about the people that have talked to that we don't know about that have talked to them? What about the people that are posting in a group? We want to find every opportunity that we can to be able to say we were invited into this neighborhood. So while that's a loose invitation, we need to see, okay, is this a neighborhood that I would like to be invited in? And okay, I'm going to take this address only lead and I'm going to go try to pursue this person, but to the end that I'm going to try to get in front of the neighbors. That's kind of one of the big first lessons that I think is important with around instant estimators is you might not get a high volume depending on how you're looking at it, but what you are getting is someone is signaling that they might be in an area that has a lot of roofs that need to be replaced. This doesn't mean that we just need to hit them and all that, but it does mean that we might be able to hone in on that area and have significantly higher conversion rates on different marketing strategies. So if we run an ad in that mile radius, that ad might perform better than the ad that's just broad to our city because we can be hyper specific and we might already have someone that has shown us some type of sign that they are in need of a replacement. We also want to look at like direct mail. It might have a better impact. If we go out and canvas, we might be able to get more conversations going and have more people receptive to talking through their project because one of their neighbors just showed you. And the script is a version of we were out in your area, or we got contacted and from someone in your area that there's some issues with their roof or whatever. So like we basically want to just use this as an excuse to be someone that isn't there just randomly because they want to get business, but is there because someone gave them some type of sign that they should do it. So that's step one. Step two is using these QR code, using these instant estimators as additional invitations in the neighborhood marketing stuff that we do, or even in broad canvassing if we want to do that. Especially if we're in an area and then we put the instant estimator QR code in a bunch of different places. So rather than our contact us page, or rather than scan here to call us, we say scan here for an instant estimate. No obligation, 30 seconds, find out what your roof replacement would cost. That person is not going to be excited about the number that comes back, almost ever. That person might not realize that this, I mean, even though they might kind of have an idea, they might not realize they're about to like submit their information. They might have just thought that this was just a random quiz they could fill out and just get an idea. What we want to do is look at those opportunities as people who are raising their hand in among the neighbors. So we want to put QR codes on if we're going to use the instant estimator strategy, which you don't have to, but if you do, you should use it right. Don't like just kind of use it. If you're going to use the instant estimator, like go heavy on it because it can be its own full blown strategy around how you know, okay, a neighbor scanned my QR code. They maybe never answered the door, but they scanned the QR code. And now we have a reason that we can go talk to them because they inquired. So they're giving little signals that we can do by we're kind of flashing a good carrot in front of them of find out, like have this immediate gratification of how much your roof is going to cost. The verbiage on the neighborhood marketing stuff. So say you're doing a project on Susie's roof right down the street and you put your door hangers out, you're sending mail and everything has the QR code for the instant estimator. Say 3 people scanned it and filled out their information, maybe didn't even give their name, just like requested the like just started like clicking through it. You now know, okay, this isn't just a random address, this is the address of the house that's on the same street as the other project we're doing. So someone really should be tracking that, whether it's you, the owner, whether it's a admin or a marketing manager or an operations, like whoever it is, someone should be tracking. Okay, does this address, is it right next to any other projects or any other things we have going on? Because if it is, then we need to make sure that we talk to that person. That person just gave us a very good in to have a conversation with them. And this is just one of the multiple ways that we can kind of have that. What we will also want to do is look at it as a chance to find, to basically like kind of initiate a save the day type of moment. So what I mean is put the instant estimate, like knowing they're not going to see the price and be pumped about it almost ever. Even if it seems reasonable to them, it still is not going to be just something where they just jump up and are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Own that. Lean into that. Make the price a little bit more than what your actual pricing is. When you go talk to the homeowner that that did it, or if you did just, or like if it was a neighbor, or even if someone just found you online and put it, the direct mail could be, hey, we know you filled out this. A lot of the time it comes out high. If you'd like us to get you a real estimate, we might be able to save you $1,000 or so. So it gives you the opportunity to come in, and part of the reason that you want to talk to them is not because you just want to follow up on their request for an estimate, but instead you want to help them find a lower number. If someone says, okay, sure, that person just gave you a great signal that they actually were potentially interested in a new roof. So that's one of the things that we want to look at is, okay, when someone is signing on, how can we, when someone is filling out the form, how can we figure out a way to make sure that that person is engaging with us as best as possible, at least if they really are serious. If they're just completely just looking, then we can have a long-term nurture process of some sort, whether it's emails if we have their email, and if it's not, then maybe we do have just some direct mail that we send to specific addresses on an ongoing basis, which is a good strategy, definitely something to do. I don't suggest having like 5, 10, 15,000 pieces of direct mail that you're sending out a month, but it might make sense to send out, to have a list that gets up to 3, 4, 500 people that you can be sending out mail to. That's not overly expensive, and it's just a way to stay top of mind and make sure that they don't fully forget about you. But going back, the people that respond to whether it's a piece of mail, whether it's a door hanger, if you're out there, and a little note, maybe you send a handwritten piece of mail, which is a good option, and you can do that individually. Dope Marketing does that, but also I think there's a company called Handwritten that you can just send one address, one handwritten piece of mail. But that type of thing where you say, hey, saw you filled this out. We might be able to save you a little money. I think it spit it out a little bit high. If you want us to actually come out and do you want us to come out and get eyes on the roof, just to double check, we might be able to save you some money. And then set your instant estimator up to where it actually does come out higher than you know it's going to be. So the point that I'm making is like use the instant estimator as not, okay, there's the estimate, or okay, this person is going to fill it out and say, yes, they're interested right away. They are completely different types of leads. We have to figure out a way to walk them through a process that gets them to show their cards as best as possible. Because we started off the relationship essentially by showing them the main thing they're wondering, which is the price. Because of that, we need to figure out, okay, how can we flip this a little bit and get information from them? And how can we look at the action and the activity that they did and use that to get the amount of like the information that is going to give us clarity on how they're actually thinking. So, okay, what do we know if they started filling this out? They're curious about the cost of a roof replacement. Do we think that this is like, is this a completely random address, or does this address have some relevance to other projects we have going on? Oh, it has some relevance. Okay. So that person is probably more aware of the projects. Maybe they saw our yard sign, maybe they saw our door hanger, or maybe they saw it on our website, whatever it was, they filled this out because they're seeing a project going down. So now they're interested in that. And then how can we continue finding ways to collect that information? Whoever is able to get that information the most effectively is the one who's going to have the best shot at using the information effectively. That's all you're doing is you're giving them information and they're giving you information. They have a little bit more control, but we do have to go out and follow up on this so that we can figure out how can we turn this opportunity into a chance to say, hey, we were invited to this area. We wanted to help save day and give you a lower price than what you saw. And we wanted to see if there was any opportunity for us just to have a conversation about the form you filled out, like whatever it is, with the neighbors. Hey, I'm here because Joey requested an estimate from us, truth, and I just wanted to introduce myself to you as we're out here, just as we're following up on that. That makes more sense than, hey, I want to inspect your roof. I want to knock, I'm knocking on your door because I want your business. We all of a sudden now have a reason to be there. So use it as that, and use it as kind of little targets of where are we going to start working? Where can we canvas this day? Where can we go put, where can we send the new salesperson, Jimmy, to start like earning his keep? That's how we need to be thinking of these things. So we really need to have like systems-based thinking. All these things need to trigger a set of actions or a set of even internal questions that we ask that are going to allow us to maximize these opportunities. Because one address only quote might be the best neighborhood that you've done work in, and like that one neighborhood that you get jobs every single place if you do the right set of actions. So let's look at this as an opportunity. We're gonna roofer and roofle, I don't really care which personally. I think if I'm choosing, I would suggest roofle, but that's mostly biased because I have a relationship with the people at roofle and I don't like I am friends with all the people at Roofer, but like just I haven't done as much business with them in the last couple years. So, oh, that was a private message. Sorry. Brian asked roofle or roofer. I say roofle, but I think either are fine. It doesn't really matter as much if we're going to use it in this way. So, going back to how we want to use uh, roofle or the instant estimator, this is going to be like kind of the second part of this talk. If we're going to use it for a PPC campaign, for instance, what are the types of people? What does someone need to be searching in order to have a instant estimator as the best thing that they see when they're like the most relevant thing they see, the thing that jumps out at them? Ideally, it's when someone asks, what's the cost of a roof? So if someone's saying roofer near me or roof repair or best roofer in this city, and then they see, instead of they seeing John's Roofing, they see get an instant estimate. That's an interruption. That's a different path than they expected to take. So if you're going to run it on pay-per-click, which I think is a good strategy, and also you can do this with long tail keywords, is when people are searching, like the searches that you're trying to get this found for would be something where it's like, okay, how much does a roof replacement cost? Like how to budget for a roof replacement. Do like how to like what's a roof replacement cost in 2025? Like whatever the wording is, that's the type of keywords that you want to do. Knowing that there's going to be less traffic for those keywords. Those are not high intent buyers. That just means it's someone who's curious about the price. Sometimes it seems like there's going to be less work when it comes to an instant estimator, but generally there's going to be more work. That's not always going to be how it feels if you're just paying attention to the people who are, you're giving a call and you're checking in and they're like, oh yeah, I got the estimate. Like, I think that's something that we could do. Those people are easy, but those people are few and far between. So that's not the type of person that we want to rely on. Like, we don't want that tool just for those people. We just want to take those people as that was nice. Instead, we want to look at people who are, I'm kind of interested. I just kind of want information. I'm very curious about the price. How can we just use it as like a signal that maybe that person or that neighborhood could use extra love? So when it comes to pay-per-click, what we want to do is have this really uh, centered around queries like, what does a roof replacement cost? That type of vibe. Now, say you put it on the QR code of your truck, which I think is a good idea as well. But once again, commitment, because that QR code is going to be on your truck now. And if you decide you're not going to renew or you don't want to do this strategy, then it's going to just go to nowhere. You're going to have to change it, which will be a pain. So once again, going back to what I was saying with the strategy as a whole, you want to make sure that when you are going to use Instant Estimator, go all in. Don't just kind of don't just go, like, don't dip your toe in the water, just dive in. It's a way of doing business. It's an approach. It's a transparency. It's catering to a different segment that is honestly usually like is usually harder to close. So that's like something that we need to know, and we need to like kind of optimize how we're handling these leads, knowing that. So say we put it on our truck. What type of people are interested in this? Generally, it's like a game. So like what I mean is like uh get an estimate before the light turns green. we've all seen like that probably if we've been like on the different Facebook forums and stuff. But this is an example of like how people are going to look at with your truck. They're not going to be like, "Oh, thank God, a roofing truck. I'm going to find out how my roof replaced." They're going to say, "Oh, I wonder if how this works. Can I actually get an estimate?" Like, and it doesn't even have to be this verbiage. If it's very obvious, get an instant estimate in 30 seconds or like whatever it is. If it's very obvious that the QR code has an instant estimate behind it, the people who see it on a truck, it's mostly going to be like just pure curiosity. So not even necessarily this. It's going to be further than this. So this maybe is the volume play, but also we want to look at these people and think, okay, how can we cater a process as a whole? Like what would a process look like that caters to the broadest amount of people in the places that this might show up? Another instant estimator that is not one of the ones we talk about is bid mailers. So bid mailers, for those that don't know, I think is a very, very cool platform where you basically tag different houses that you see and you send them an estimate, an unsolicited estimate. So it's more of a proactive approach to price first. The reason I like it is because you can go like it's like only $3 or something or $4 to send a piece of mail with like a full branded estimate, and it actually has a picture of their house like with a transparent little section on the envelope. So it like has a crazy open rate. Like no one would ignore it, or most people wouldn't. Not no one, but most people wouldn't. But this is more of a proactive approach. So this would be something that you may pair, for instance, with having your QR code everywhere else. So like this strategy might be good to pair with a Facebook ad that also says, get your estimate, like get an instant estimate. Maybe even a call center campaign where you're calling them and rather than trying to set the appointment, you're saying, hey, we're offering instant estimates. We're doing some work in your neighborhood. Just wanted to see if you would be interested in getting a quick ballpark price on what your roof would cost. The call center, like they must say, sure, okay, yeah. And then you just ask for their information, you fill it out for them, you have them as a contact there in your CRM, and then you say, this might have spit out a little bit high. Like, would you be interested in us coming out and like getting you a more like specific, like more like accurate estimate? That might not be on the call center, that might be on like a follow-up, but like you get the point. So this is more people who like bid mailers or using the call center or something like that. This is basically a way that we can be using that same psychology more proactively. But usually I would suggest pairing this with having your QR code or having like your instant estimator in a bunch of other places. On the sign, I think that always makes sense. So if you have a yard sign and you close the deal and you're doing a project, that's a great way to get those signals, like I was talking about earlier, from a neighbor. So someone's walking by, you look it up and be like, oh crap, this is like a block over from that other project that we're doing right now. They probably scanned it from there. That would probably be a good sign to go try to talk to that person. Facebook ad to the instant estimator page. This could be paired with all of these things. So like you can run an ad a mile radius on the door hangers, same psychology here. As a big CTA on your website, this is honestly not a bad thing, but not necessarily like going to be the like it just is something that's a good practice. It's not necessarily going to be like sending a bunch of traffic there. It kind of is just like matches all the other intent that we're doing. And then something that's like if you really want to go like high volume and you want this to be a big strategy, do something like donate a bunch of coasters to a bar with your QR code on it. Like get your instant estimate before your next drink comes or something like that. This once again signals of like what people in what areas might need a project, might be like intrigued by roofing. So the point that I'm making with all of this is, one, we want to make sure that we're very like clear on what type of people at like from a broad perspective are going to be using it. And when we are putting our instant estimator in different places, we need to know and understand basically kind of like what type of person they are, what they're looking for, like what general, like where in the buying cycle they might be. And we're never going to be 100% right, but we want to be like mostly right and have a process that like is catered around that. So knowing that, we want to make sure that our company is equipped, if we're going to go all in on this stuff, to take care of to like nurture these leads. The one thing that I think is really important to know is these leads are definitely not going to be like, they might not be as good depending on like, I mean, some of them are going to be great, but some of them might not respond. They may be really just for curious. The nice thing is, if you're getting these leads and they're just kind of ghosting you, they're like just kind of getting a ballpark estimate, there's a decent shot no one is really taking care of this segment of buyers. This person just wants information and is not really wanting to like call a roofer out, is not really wanting to interact much. So because of that, you might be in a situation where you can be that one person that pursued them enough to actually get the project, or you're the one person who went the extra mile and used it to get in your area. When you're doing that, like, have a strong follow-up game here. Have a process of like judging, okay, is this next to a project that we're already doing? Or have we done a project in this area? Or maybe a simple way to check, okay, when did this person receive a postcard from us at some point? Like, you can do that in dope marketing, probably in Syngem as well. Like, you can search the name and see if they are on a previous list of yours. So there's all kinds of things we can do, but we just need to make sure, one, we understand the types of potential buyers they are, and two, we want to make sure that we're meeting them where they are, because honestly, that might be your opportunity to work an entirely different like segment of the audience in your market that no one else is really talking to. We also want to make sure that we are not just kind of half putting it around. And it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing, but it's going to be confusing if like you have a big sales process and the price is the big reveal, but then they can go on your website and find a page once they're searching you that has the estimate right away. Like, that might get people to ghost you. That might be a place where people fall off. Tina, you mentioned, or Jenna maybe, I'm sorry. Jenna mentioned that there was like a couple duplicate names or names that they recognized that maybe were like in their sales process already. That's not a bad thing, but also like, you don't want there to be some big mismatch of your messaging or like how you approach it. Like, you don't want to seem like you're hiding the price or have to go put the estimate together, and then all of a sudden they look at your website and realize they could have gotten a ballpark estimate in a few minutes. Like, we need to make sure that we are not letting these tools be things that kind of like create misalignment in the process and flow they're going through. So when we use them, we want to go kind of all out on them. How do you feel about Bitly to make that easier? I think Bitly's fine. Like, you can kind of track to see what QR code people came from. I think Dope Marketing has like they have their tool called Hot Leads, which I think is good too. The thing is, Morgan, with something like Bitly, is like you can get analytics on it, but it doesn't necessarily like tell you who the person was, I don't think. So it basically will just kind of give you analytics on like how many people are clicking and like the traffic. But let's open it up. Does anyone have questions around some of this stuff? I know this was kind of like more like just broad, but I want to kind of like talk to y'all about when you use these instant estimators, it's not just as simple as putting it up and just letting it go. Like we need to have a follow-up strategy and we need to segment them in general as the types of like customers they probably are, which isn't a bad customer, just someone that might not be as deep in the decision-making process yet. And someone that is much more price motivated. So how do we interact with that person versus someone else? It can be a great tool. It can give you a much like larger pool of leads if you use it properly, but also they're going to be harder leads to work. So it would be more like database building and uh like where to target, where what neighborhoods might be best to work in, rather than just like, okay, my whole business is going to grow like massively because of this one tool. It generally is never that simple. So part of this training is just to kind of like walk you through the depth that I would encourage you guys to look at all this stuff in. So does anyone have any questions or thoughts? It's okay if you don't, but I don't see any people with their camera on or anything. Brian said a thinking emoji. That must mean I did a really, really good job. So as you're looking at our instant estimators, my encouragement is if you're a client or even if you're not, like message me and talk to me kind of how you're using it and like we'll talk through like what it could look like. If you're thinking about using it, I am team instant estimator. Like if I were to say you should, some people should or shouldn't, I would say you should because I think it's a really nice net and like a good mouse trap. With that said, we just need to make sure we know what to do with the mice that we catch in the trap because it's a very different type of person than someone who wants you just to come out for an inspection right away and check things out. So reach out. I'll kind of give you some of my thoughts. This is kind of just like an overview, but like if we want to talk more specifics of anything and kind of build out an actual strategy, I would love to do that. And I've done that with others. So just let me know. Until then, I appreciate you guys and we'll end a little early because I do have a meeting right at 3:30 anyway. So appreciate it. See y'all.